Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, a leader in the Democratic Party, has said the BDS movement is anti-Semitic. He said, when you hold the state of Israel to one standard and you hold the rest of the world to a different standard because the state of Israel is the Jewish state of Israel, the only reason for that is anti-Semitism. That's what the BDS movement does. And this curriculum doesn't educate children on what the BDS movement is. It doesn't even expose them to the other side of the aisle, what other people might think. It encourages children to take part in the BDS movement. This is active recruitment by the left. This is indoctrination of our children so that they grow up into radical leftists who will vote for Democrats. It's absolutely obscene.
It's obscene, it's outrageous, it's dangerous. I mean, to be able to point out that Chuck Schumer has even taken this position shows just how extreme and radical the state of California, the California public education system has gotten. When your viewers comment on this, they may also want to point out the fact that California should actually look at educating children, not advancing this radical liberal agenda. When you only have barely 50% of California public school students meeting the actual education curriculum standards, I think that's worth noting. At the same time, rejecting this social justice extreme agenda, but to tell the schools and the elected officials, maybe California should teach kids how to read and write, not to be extreme liberal activists.
Well, to teach them how to read and to write would entail that perhaps it would be equipping them to think for themselves, to think critically and logically, and the left can't stand that because then these children might grow up to disagree with the radical leftist agenda. I mean, we talked 2 weeks ago about a portion of this story as well. We talked about the fact that in this so-called ethnic studies curriculum, that capitalism is being taught to the children. The children are being told that capitalism is racist. I want to read a little bit about how capitalism is described. They call it a, quote, form of power and oppression alongside the patriarchy, racism, white supremacy, and ableism. Capitalism and capitalists appear in this curriculum several times as villains. I mean, capitalism, the free market, has pulled more people out of poverty, has enabled more people to live their lives the way they feel is best versus oppressive dictates from a government than any other form of economic system in the entire history of the world. And yet California is trying to demonize that because they want that government control over the next generation of Americans.
Capitalism is paying for the public schools. Let's point that out. I had to laugh at this one point, Liz, you'll appreciate this, where it talks about social justice in the context of math. I mean, how does that work? I can think when I was in high school, if I told my algebra teacher that, I disagreed with the answer to the problem because that wasn't woke enough or socially just, I can tell I'd be sitting out in the hall. But I mean, this is how absurd. It's serious, but it's almost laughable to the extent that the radical left agenda wants to make math out to be a liberal perspective viewpoint instead of 2 and 2 equaling 4, which is really what kids need to be taught in our public schools.